Obviously, Aussie Open coming up. When I was away from tennis and while I was an active player, I didn't watch much. I wish I would have watched more. Are you planning? Are you the type of person that will sit there for 3 or 4 hours and actually watch and digest tennis? And when you do that, is it simply because you're a fan of tennis, or is it because you're actually trying to analyze, or do those two live together?
I think the number one thing is that I'm a fan of tennis, and I love to watch tennis. And the second thing also comes into my mind, that what can they do that I cannot do? And then I try to think like, why are they doing this? And also some decision making on the court, like especially now in Australia, it was a bit difficult to watch this week in Brisbane because I'm sleeping when they're playing and everything. But after my injury, I was putting some of the Paris Masters on the TV, and I watched obviously the match with Carlos and Norrie, and I watched a lot of Sinner because he went all the way. And I just, I think it's, you don't need to be like, they are my competitors, I should just focus on myself. I think it's fair to say I can definitely learn something from them, because there's a reason why, now it's Carlos and Jannik are the best players in the world. And I was watching and trying to understand a little bit, and not just look at like, oh, that's a great shot, but why they're doing this in this situation, and how much, in a way, discipline. And obviously I think Jannik is the most disciplined, but even Carlos, because I know him from so many years, how much he disciplined himself playing. Because I remember him in juniors, he was much more wild than he is now, with crazy drop shot and crazy moments and everything. And now you see him take pace off the forehand a little bit sometimes, and decide which one to punch on. And obviously he is very gifted and has this firepower. So, we all know that it's very tempting to go for it. But I think, yeah, watching tennis, I think it's a great opportunity to learn. And, I think, like we train the body and the fitness, we can also train the mind in this way.
How hard is it? And I'm asking you a question about a reality that I lived through with the big three also, but how hard is it to watch those two progress? How much of it is I want that? How much of it is a motivator, and how much of it causes an insecurity? Because I remember when I would play and Roger would have these things, I felt like this thing where it's like, shit, I know I have to beat him. And also like, I constantly was thinking about it. Is there a mental toll, or is it kind of completely separate? And it might be a little bit different for you because the age is pretty similar with Carlos.
As you say, it's a bit of both. It's both motivating and it can also be frustrating. But again, I just try to focus on my own path. I think when I'm ready and when everything it's worked on well enough, that then my time will come. And I think everybody goes in their own pace. Carlos was extremely early when he not just broke through, but started to win Grand Slams. He was 19. Jannik was a bit later. I haven't won a Grand Slam yet, but I was a bit different. I obviously won Paris when I was really young, and then I had a little step back. And I think when I reached my career high, actually, it was possibly the worst moment of my life, actually, with everything. So it was really, a weird moment. Because
explain that, Holger, because I'm not sure a lot of people listening would understand that.
Because I had no really structure on my life in this moment. First of all, with the coaching situation, as everybody knows, and then with training and different opinions. And it was kind of the first time where I really had to in a way grow up and kind of, take my own decisions and be aware of everything else. Before that, it was just like I was on the court, loving it, just listening to my coaches, saying yes and no. It was very, very simple. And obviously we spoke and I had opinions and everything, but, all of a sudden much more opinions came in, and that even from bigger names that I have a lot of respect from. And then you start to question yourself a lot. And I think it took me a while to understand that, you need to find the right people around you, and then to try to, only listen to them and not to be too much, oh, this guy says that, because then it creates too much confusion. And yeah, that was one of the reasons why it was confusing. And then, a lot of expectations also. It when you become high on the ranking, it's different than being just number 10 in the world to be number 4 in the world. It's a different way of living. People saying, oh yeah, you play Novak in the semis of US Open, I'm going to come watch. And then, yeah, but I have 4 or 5 matches before that, and then I lost first round, so things like this. And I think tennis, as you know, is such a high level that you cannot look forward. I mean, at a Grand Slam or any tournament, you need to, the first match you can play 7-6 in the third. You can even lose. So no matter how good you are.
How hard has that been? How hard has the learning curve been with kind of disconnecting your reality on a random Tuesday versus idiots like me who come on and just think that we know everything about everything? How hard has that learning process been to kind of disconnect the process in the day-to-day from kind of macro tennis orbit?
If I understand your question right, you mean like the difference of being in a normal day or as a tennis player?
No,
or?
just I can come on here and I can say, okay, listen, I'm having to cover 100 players at once, right? Of which, if you go out and there's turmoil and I'm reading headlines based on Holger's switched coaches or he's a new coach or he's this, that, and the other, how hard is it to disconnect kind of your reality and what you know to be true versus people who cover you?
Yeah, it can be difficult because, as you say, the headlines are very straightforward and very brutal sometimes. But, when you're the player and you're in that situation, you know why it happened and how it happened. And sometimes it can be a lot different than how, the newspaper or whatever reads it. And I think, as I said, I respect people having an opinion. I think everybody should be allowed to say what they want. Because I don't think we should all be thinking the same. I think the world would be boring if we did that. So I think it's totally fair that I have my opinion, you have yours, other players, other coaches have theirs. I think it's totally fair, and especially as yourself, former players, when they open up and speak. I think I would say that's from outside the persons that I listen the most to, because they've had that experience that I have on the court. Where people who hasn't had that experience, I think it's you should take it more with a gram of salt, as I would say.
Yeah, I think there's also a weird place where I don't think people would talk much if they didn't see your drive and potential, right? So I think that's almost like a catch-22 also. It's like, there's a reason we're talking about you because you're 20 years old and you're 4 in the world. Like we have to. You've almost forced the conversation sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And as you say, that's a good thing. Rather have people speaking about them, and even bad sometimes, and nobody speaking about you, because it means you're doing nothing. So I think that's a good thing. Obviously, we all like when we are spoken well to, of course. But it's I think by time you're also going to learn it. No matter how you are, how you behave, how you play, there's going to be the persons and the fans that love you. They're going to be the persons that don't like you. I mean, that's not going to change. So I think that's again totally fair. Everybody should kind of be fans of who they want to be.
So we've talked a bunch about from this moment forward, and with the injury and what the next year of your life kind of may or may not look like. Let's go back and level set. Let's pretend like we were talking in Shanghai of this year before you got hurt, right? And if I was to say at that point, Holger, what needs to improve? What's the obvious path to get to where you eventually want to go as of right now?
Yeah, and that's very interesting, because when I played in Tokyo the week before Shanghai, I had a really, really important talk with all my team, and very kind of, you could say, a brutal talk in a way, very straightforward, where for a while people were actually honest with me, which in the moment it can be tough, but I really appreciate it, because from there something changed a little bit. So I was very unfortunate that my injury happened, but from beginning in Shanghai and Stockholm, I think I did the right things. And the thing is just, I need to be better in those matches where things are not really feeling well, things are a bit rough, it's an uncomfortable match to play, but it's that match I need to get over before things get funny, like the quarters, for example, or the fourth round. These matches, great players, but these matches, I know if I put my 10 out of 10 effort, not my 10 out of 10 game, but the effort, I'm going to go through this most of the times. And this is what we spoke about, and we were pretty honest with each other. Like, look, obviously your potential is like this, but if you want to get there, you need to do these things, and if you don't want to do them, fair, but then we need to talk differently to each other. So and I think in that moment I kind of understood the seriousness of these kind of matches, and the effort that I need to put when it's a match that is is more rough. Not just because, again, I played many matches that are tough, like against Djokovic, but these are matches that are so enjoyable. It's more the matches that you don't enjoy that much. That's like a dirty grind, against a crazy good Argentine player or something like this, where they're playing high in the backhand and you struggle and it's a slow clay court or something. Those are the matches that I need to learn to get through, and I think I did it well in Shanghai to be tough, to be more tough when I play those matches.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because, like, for my entire career, people always mention any match. It's like a semi, a final, and no one ever remembers when you actually don't feel great and you barely beat someone who's 80 in the world, but it gives you that chance to get to the round of 16 or the quarters. And then all of a sudden something snaps and something clicks in the quarters and you play great. And people are like, oh, you played
better.
You played great that week. It's like, I actually played like shit for the first 3 days of that tournament, but just survived, right? Is that kind of what that conversation was about?
That's exactly what I meant. And example was when we had the talk was in Tokyo when I won the 2 first matches. Then I played Brooksby, who was a great player, very tricky player, and I can be honest, I kind of, I didn't put an effort. I tried, but it was not a full effort. And credit to him also for making it difficult for me. I don't want to take anything away from that, but it was not a full effort. And
is that when you say effort? Because let me just interrupt for a second. Because when you say effort, when I watch you, I never ever look at a match, and I may disagree with tactics. I may disagree with how someone goes about it. Like, listen, that all happens. We're not all good every day. But I never look at you and go, that guy's not physically there. Are you talking about like the mental side of it?
Yes, mental kind of effort. Because for example that match, then I play, then I change tactic every 3 or 4 games, then I try to play extremely aggressive. Then I'm playing aggressive. I'm looking at my team. I'm like, but I'm trying to do some things. But if I really tell myself I need to win this match, I would most of the time find a way to win. It's just because sometimes you think things are off. Oh, it's tough to move, or you feel the leg a little bit more, or something like this. And that's those matches where you just gotta dig deep and forget a little bit how you feel, and I think in those last tournaments before my injury, my team was also really accurate and good to keep me accountable on my effort, because without this mental effort on every match, it's also tough to talk about the tennis, because you don't know how good you could be or how good you are if you don't put the quality every day. I mean, it's really tough to say. That's always what my lifetime coach Lars said, that if you keep doing it for a certain amount of matches, certain tournaments, then we can talk about how your level is. But before you do it consistently, it's tough to speak about if you're good enough or not. Because again, everybody can play good on one day, but can they keep doing it consistently?